Hello, this is Lisa with Old Orchid Yarnery, and I'm here today to show you the Block Party knit block for the month of August 2023. This month we are doing mosaic knitting. So I haven't quite finished my other block yet, but this is what it's going to look like. In mosaic knitting, you're working with typically two colors, but you ever only work with one color at a time on a row. And then the other color that you're not working with, you're slipping those stitches. And it makes a difference whether you slip them with the yarn in front or in back, and you get this sort of a pattern. So let me show you how it works. In our pattern, we're casting on a multiple of 10 plus 3. For my purposes, I did 53, and I'm still using the Sueño yarn by Haiku, which is the merino bamboo blend. It's a DK weight. I've been using size 8 knitting needles, and my blocks I've been blocking to be about 9 inches square. So for 53 stitches, I got the size I needed here. You'll be using the same size needle you've been using all along, and you'll be determining how many stitches you need to cast on for your finished size. So for our purposes here for the demonstration, I just cast on 23 stitches, the multiple of 10 plus 3 stitches. And we're going to use two colors. I'm going to use this green and this blue today. And I recommend writing on your pattern which one is color A and which is color B. Because as you get to each row, don't mind all my little hash marks here, but as you get to each row, it tells you which color to use. And it just helped me to be able to write down on my bigger sample that I knew that color A was blue and color B was tan. So that if I ever had to remember which color am I on, I could just, okay, I need color B, so that's going to be tan for this row. So I recommend that you write that down. It might be helpful to you. So we're going to cast on a multiple of 10 plus 3, and we're going to knit one row. So I've got my 23 stitches here. I've chosen to use blue as my color A, because that's your cast on color. And now I'm just going to knit across one row. Mosaic knitting is a lot of fun to do because, like I said, it's a method of color work, but it produces a really pretty result without being maybe as difficult as some might think stranded color work or Fair Isle color work is, because you're not having to manage two colors at a time on a row. When you're managing two or more colors at a time, you have to figure out which hand you're going to hold them in, and how are you going to work twisting them together in the back and catching floats and all of those things. And if none of those terms are familiar to you because you haven't done much color work, don't worry about it. Just know that mosaic knitting, you don't have to deal with all of those things, and yet you get a really impressive looking product in the end with two colors that makes typically a geometric type design. You can do all sorts of different designs with mosaic knitting, but the ones I've seen have typically been geometric in nature. All right, I'm just about to the end here, knitting across my first row, and now row 1. So that was just our setup. With our color A, we cast on our stitches and we knit one row. So row 1 is going to be a right side row. You can go ahead and mark this if you want to. It will become pretty apparent as you go. Here's my right side and here's my wrong side. So as you continue along and you get a first couple of rows done, you'll be able to tell pretty easily which is the right and which is the wrong side. Some people like to put a marker on the right side though. All right, so my color B is going to be this green, and it says with color B, I'm going to knit 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and attach that yarn at the beginning like I would normally. And for me, when I'm attaching a new color at the beginning of a row, I go ahead and I enter the stitch like normal. I make a little loop with the yarn, put it on my needle, and then just knit it. Now it's going to be a little loose right at the beginning because you've got your tail from your first color and your tail from your second color, and nothing's very tight or locked in yet, but don't worry about it. Just go ahead and knit 4 like it indicates in the pattern, and then we can go back and kind of tighten up those ends. So 4. So here we have our ends that are just kind of loose. I'm just going to kind of tug on them a little tight right now. Now the pattern says slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 5. And we're going to repeat that to the last 9 stitches. So we're going to slip 1, And the pattern tells us that if you're on a right side row, which we are, we're going to slip the stitches with the yarn in back. On a wrong side row, you're going to slip stitches with the yarn in front. This is where it's important knowing which is your right side and which is your wrong side. Because when I slip that yarn, I want to keep the yarn that I'm slipping, I want to keep the yarn float, if you will, on the wrong side of my work. I don't want to have it loose hanging out on the front of my work. Uh-oh. If your needle falls out, don't worry. Don't panic, just put them back in. Okay, so I'm going to slip one with my yarn in back because I'm on the right side. And now I'm going to knit 3. And this will become just second nature as you're doing it. And now I'm going to slip one again with my yarn in back because I want it on the wrong side of the work when I slip it. And then I'm going to knit 5. Now it says to continue that, slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 5, until you get to the last 9 stitches. For me, I'm already there because I didn't cast on very many. So the last 9 stitches, you're going to slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, yarn it back again, and knit 4. These are my last 4 stitches. So we'll go ahead and knit them. Now the pattern tells us that row 2 and all wrong side rows with the same color used on the previous row, knit the purl stitches and slip the slip stitches as they face you. So we're knitting the purl stitches because we're producing a garter stitch fabric, which means we're knitting on both sides. That's why we have all these bumps. It's a nice squishy fabric. So row 2, I'm going to use the same color that I just used, which was the green, and I'm going to knit the purls and slip the slip stitches. So for instance, I'm using my green. So if I have a green stitch here, I'm just knitting it. I don't really have to think about, is it a purl? Is it a knit? If it's a green stitch, I'm knitting it on the wrong side row. And now I've come to a blue stitch. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to slip it. But here's where I have to move my yarn. I put my yarn in front to slip because I want that float to be on the wrong side of my fabric, which is what's facing me right now. Now I've got a green stitch again, so I'm going to go ahead and knit it. And I'm going to keep knitting green stitches until I get to another blue. I'm going to bring my yarn to the front. I'm going to slip that stitch, put the yarn in the back again. You see how that yarn goes across the slip stitch? This is the wrong side of my fabric. I don't want that showing on the right side of the fabric. Now I've got green stitches again, so we're just going to knit them. On the wrong side of the fabric, if it's the color I'm using, I just knit it. If it's the other color, I slip it. So yarn to the front, slip that blue stitch, yarn to the back again, and knit. Now let me try to do English for you just so you can see that slip action. So I'm going to just knit the green ones because I'm using the green yarn right now. And now I've come to a blue stitch. So I'm going to bring my yarn forward. I'm going to slip that stitch. And then I'm going to take my yarn back again so that I can knit the green ones. And we're just knitting the green all the way to the end, knitting the color we're using, slipping the opposite color. Now again, we're kind of at the end here where things are a little loose because I added that new color. Don't worry, just go ahead and knit it, be gentle with it until we get that done. And now we can pull on these tails and kind of tighten things up a little bit. There we go. That was row 2. So now we're going to go back and turn and go to row 3. So now row 3 is telling me I'm going back to color A again. So for me, that's my blue. So let me move this green out of the way. Now, you're not going to cut that green. We're just going to let it hang out here for you because we're only doing knitting down and coming back again. So essentially 2 rows. And so we'll just carry that other color up the side. We're not cutting it. So we should only have ends at the very beginning and at the very end of our work. So I'm going to go back to my color A, which is my blue. And row 3. We're going to knit 3 with our blue. That's That's the beginning. And now there's an asterisk in your pattern, so you know that now's where we're starting what we're going to repeat as we continue through. So we're going to slip one. Now I'm on the right side of the fabric, so I'm slipping with my yarn in the back. I'm going to slip one, knit 5, and then I'm going to slip one and knit 3. Yarn is in the back, slipping. And now I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to slip one, knit 5. Now when you're on the right side row, you're not knitting the stitches of the same color with the same color yarn like on the back. So you have to just pay attention to what the pattern tells you, because we're forming that design on the front of our work. And I'm going to slip one, and I'm going to knit the last 3, just as it indicates for row 3 of the pattern. Now I'm going to turn, and remember, on a wrong side row, I'm always continuing to use the same color I just used. And because I'm using blue, if it's a blue stitch, I'm going to knit it. And if it's a green stitch, I'm going to slip it. And that's always going to be your wrong side rows. Whatever color you're using, you knit those stitches and you slip the opposite ones. So I'm going to knit these blues, and now I've come to a green. Remember, it's a wrong side row though, so I want to move this yarn to the front and slip that stitch, and then take it back to the back and knit my blues again. As long as it's a blue, I'm knitting it. Oh, here we go. Bring the yarn forward, slip the green one, and now I'm going to knit the blues. Like with many things, after you get a couple of rows in, you'll be able to begin seeing the design form on the front side of the work. And it'll be a little easier to tell where you need to knit and where you need to slip, but it's still a good idea to always pay attention to your pattern in mosaic knitting, because it's easy to get off. All right, and so there we go. That was row 4. Now we're going to flip it. Row 5 tells me to go back to color B again, which in my case is green. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up my green. What I usually do is I pick it up I take it underneath the other color, so it kind of twists along the edge. It doesn't matter though. All right, so row 5. Row 5, color B, tells me to knit 1. So I'm going to go ahead and knit 1. And then I'm going to slip 2 and knit 7. So I know that I want to slip these next 2 because I'm on a right side row. I'm going to slip with that yarn in the back. You can slip them one at a time or both together like this. It doesn't matter. And when we're slipping, I should have mentioned this earlier, we're slipping purlwise, which means we're inserting our needle tip from the right to the left like this, as if we were going to purl that stitch. That's called slipping purlwise. The reason is I don't want to twist those stitches. If I were to slip them this way like I was knitting them, they'd be twisted when they get on the other side. If a pattern ever doesn't tell you how to slip them, always assume it's purlwise, because we just want to transfer those stitches from one side to the other without twisting them. So I'm going to slip 2 with my yarn in the back because I'm on the right hand side, and I'm going to knit 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now the pattern tells me to slip 1. So I'm going to slip 1, and now we go back to our repeat again. Slip 2, knit 7, slip 1. And it says to do that to the last 2 stitches. So we're going to slip 2, knit 7, and slip 1. Oops, yarn and back. There we go. And now for the last 2 stitches, we're going to slip 1 and knit 1. So I'm going to slip 1, the yarn and back, and I'm going to knit 1. And that was the end of row 5. You can start seeing our pattern forming. See how we're getting these kind of blocks of color. Here's our green, there's the blue going up on the side and the blue on the top of it. So we're going to do row 6, which is as all wrong side rows. We're going to use the color we just knit with. In this case it was green. We're going to knit the green stitches, slip the blue stitches. always on wrong side rows, that's what you're doing. So I'm going to knit the green. Now this is the wrong side, so I have to bring my yarn to the front to slip. You know what, let me put it in, I want to show you how it looks if I do it wrong. So if I leave that yarn in the back and I slip these 2 blue stitches, and then I continue to knit, let me knit a few and then I'll turn it over and let you see it. So now on the wrong side, you see how I have that bar of green going across those blue stitches? That's going to disrupt my pattern. I don't want that showing on the front side of the work. So let me back it up and go slip those properly with the yarn on the wrong side of the work so that you can't see it. I don't want to disturb that pattern on the front. Okay, take it back, unslip those stitches, and there's my yarn, and I'm going to move it to the wrong side of the work again, to the front, and slip my stitches, and then knit the greens with my green. I'll show you again. So now that I've done it properly, my green yarn that I slipped is right here on the wrong side of the work. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not disrupting my blue stitches on the front. So that's why it's important to know which side you need to hold the yarn when you're slipping. If you're on the right side rows, you slip it with the yarn in back, keeping the yarn to the wrong side. If you're on the wrong side rows, you slip with the yarn in front, also keeping the yarn to the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to continue knitting the greens with the green. When I get to a blue, we'll slip them with the yarn in front to keep it to the wrong side of the fabric. And here's 3. So I've got 3 blue stitches that I'm going to slip. Got my yarn in front. I can slip them one at a time like this if I want to, or I can just get my needle in there and slip all 3 of them. Doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. And then we're going to knit. Okay, I'm coming to blue again. So I'm holding my yarn to the front, which is the wrong side. I'm going to slip those 2, and I'm going to knit the last stitch because it's green, and I'm using green. All right, now we're going to turn it over, and we're going to do row 7. I'm going to take you through a whole repeat here. So row 7 is the same as row 3. So with color A, which means we're going back to my blue again. See why I thought it was a good idea, though, if you write it down? Good idea to write it down, because otherwise you'll be like A, B, blue, green, white. What color am I using? So row 7, it says as row 3. So I'm going to, with color A, I'm going to knit 3. And then I'm going to slip 1. So again, I'm on the right side of my work, so I'm going to hold the yarn to the back when I slip this one, and knit 5. And now I'm going to slip 1, my yarn in back, and I'm going to knit 3. Now we're going to repeat that sequence all the way to the end. So I'm going to slip 1, knit 5, and slip 1, yarn in back, and knit 3. Okay, I'm going to do a wrong side row, which is row 8. Remember, wrong side rows, I just finished knitting with blue, so I'm going to carry on with blue, and any blue stitches are going to get knit on this wrong side, and any green stitches for me are going to get slipped. So I start out with blue, we're just going to knit those. And now I come to a green one. I'm going to hold the yarn to the wrong side of the work, which is the front, slip that green one purlwise, and then go back and knit the blues. So I hope you're able to see that mosaic knitting is not difficult. You just need to keep track. I'm slipping and knitting. Keep track which is your color A and which is your color B. Know if you're on the right or the wrong side of the fabric so that you know where to hold that yarn when you're slipping the stitches so that it doesn't disrupt your pattern on the other side. And then you end up getting a really rewarding, kind of complex sometimes looking pattern design when it really hasn't been that difficult to do. So there we go. That was row 8. Here's what my wrong side is looking like. And now here's what my right side is looking like. Now you can really see the pattern starting to form. There's lots of different mosaic crochet or mosaic knitting patterns with lots of different designs. This was just one that kind of looked like blocks. Here's the pattern picture. You can see we end up with these blocks that almost look like negative and positive with the two different colors of yarn. And again, here's my sample that I've been working on. And so you see the white squares with the blue in the center and the blue squares with the white in the center, alternating all the way up the work. All right, let's get back to our pattern. We're on row 9. Row 9 says the same as row 1. So on row 1, we're using color B, which for me is green. And it says that I am going to knit 4, at the beginning, and then I have that asterisk. So now is where my repeated pattern begins to go all the way across my row. So I'm going to slip 1. Again, I'm on the right hand side, so I've got my yarn in the back to slip. And I'm going to knit 3. And then I'm going to slip 1 and knit 5. And that's my repeat. And I'm going to continue that all the way across. So now I go back to that asterisk and it's slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 5. Oh no, it said to the last 9 stitches. I'm like, wait, I don't have 5 stitches. Knit 4 at the end. A little thrown off because I have such a small sample here. There's not very much in a repeat. So you're going to repeat what's in the asterisk. It says on row 1 until you get to the last 9 stitches. Then you're going to slip 1, knit 3, slip 1, knit 4. All right, row 10. Wrong side row again. I've been knitting with green, so I'm going to carry on with green on this wrong side row. I'm going to knit my green stitches, and I'm going to slip my blue stitches. Wrong side row, you really don't have to think too much, except when it comes to where to hold that yarn when you're slipping. I'm on the wrong side, so I've got my yarn in front. I'll slip that blue one, put it back to the back again to knit. Knitting the green stitches with the green yarn, slipping the blue stitches with my yarn in front. So that that piece of yarn going across the blue like that doesn't disrupt my pattern on the front of the work. Keep knitting greens. Oh, there's another blue, so we're going to bring the yarn forward, slip my blue, yarn to the back, knit my greens again. This is row 10. Slip the blue and knit these last 4 greens to the end. All right, row 11. You probably gathered by now and noticed the pattern. Row 11, I'm going to switch colors. So we're switching colors every 2 rows. We knit a row on the right side with a color, go back with the same color on the wrong side, then we switch colors again. So row 10, I'm going to go back to my color A. I'm sorry, row 11, we just finished 10. Row 11, I'm going to go back to color A, which is my blue. And I'm just letting my green hang out there. And I'm going to knit 5. And then we're going to slip 3. So there's my 5. And I'm going to slip 3 with the yarn in back so it doesn't disrupt and get in front of those 3 green stitches, mess up my pattern. And now I'm going to knit 7. And we're going to go back to the beginning. And we're going to repeat again what's between the asterisks until the last 8 stitches on row 11. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to slip 3 with my yarn in back. I'm at my last 8 stitches now, by the way. So I'm going to slip 3 and knit 5. That's what I have left. This is a 12 row repeat. So we're now on row 12, which is a wrong side row. All the even numbered rows are wrong side rows. I just finished knitting with blue, so I'm going to continue with blue on the wrong side. I'm going to knit my blue stitches, slip my green stitches. So we'll just knit across. Can't wait to see what your squares look like as you put together your color combinations. Here's 3 I'm going to slip because they're not blue. Got my yarn in the front, so it doesn't show on the right side of the work when I slip these. Put it to the back again so I can knit some more blue stitches. I think it'll look really nice to have a couple of different mosaic squares in a couple of different color combinations. I know some of you have chosen 2 or 3 or 4 different colors to use for your different blocks, so it'll be fun to see how you put those together into your mosaic stitches. Here I've got green stitches, so I'm slipping them. Now when I slip them, when you're working with color work, this piece of yarn that's going across those stitches that I'm not working, that blue right here, that's called a float. Now I don't want to pull that float too tight because that's going to make my work pucker. So I keep my stitches kind of spread out on my right hand needle, and then I don't pull my blue yarn too tightly when I start to knit this next stitch. I just let it flow evenly across the back of those 3 green stitches. So I'm just knitting like normal. I'm not pulling it tight, and it's just leaving a nice little float there. It's not too loose and not too tight. It's the Goldilocks version. It's just right. All right, so now I've finished row 12. This pattern is a 12 row repeat. Here's the wrong side with 12 rows done, and here's the right side with 12 rows done. You can really see that pattern start to form. Now you're going to repeat rows 1 through 12 until you're at your desired height. For me, on my sample right here, just to give you an example, I'm in the middle of my 6th repeat. I'm about halfway through my 6th repeat. So it looks to me like I am probably, let me just estimate here. It looks to me like I'm going to probably need a couple more repeats here. I'm going to guess I'm going to do 8. If I'm almost done with 6, 7, I probably will do 8 repeats. But we'll see. And I could stop in the middle of a repeat if I need to. Because I'm making squares that are approximately 9 inches wide, then I'm going to work until I'm almost 9 inches tall. Because then when I block this, I'll just square it off nice and neat. And then I'll have my square that is about 9 inches square to add to the rest of the squares I've been making. Now garter stitch, when you block this, you're going to want to keep in mind, don't stretch it and pull on it too much because garter stitch is very stretchy. You can very easily distort this out of shape and out of size. So when you're blocking, excuse me, when you're blocking a garter stitch square like this, I think it's important just to go ahead and get it wet the way you normally do. Squeeze out the excess water and then lay it out to dry, and maybe just give it, a little shake like this, lay it out gently, pin the corners if you need to, if they seem to be rolling up, but then just kind of zhuzh it into shape without pulling and stretching. You probably won't need to pin the edges of this because garter stitch does not roll at all. Most likely your corners will not need to be pinned because garter stitch really maintains its shape just because of the properties of the fabric. All right, so that is our mosaic knit square for August. I hope you enjoy it. As always, if you have any questions or problems, please let me know. Call or come in the shop anytime. I'm happy to help you. You can also rewatch this video a few times if that's helpful to you. I put these videos up not so you won't come and bother me and ask me questions, but so that you have it to refer to in case you're at home and it's the evening and I'm not open and you would like to just refresh your memory. So that's what they will always be up here for you. If you like the videos that I'm putting up, please give them a little like. As people always say on YouTube, that really helps. And leave me a comment if there's something that you liked about this video or something else you'd like to see. All right, I look forward to seeing you in the shop. Happy mosaic knitting. Bye-bye. Hello again. As I was filming that mosaic knitting tutorial and showing you my block that I was working on, I noticed in the screen that there's an error here. So I thought I would just show that to you and show you how I'm going to fix it. Right down here, let me see if I can make it so you can see this properly. So right here, I have a spot where I have slipped with my yarn in the front. I was working along with my blue, and I was supposed to slip with the yarn in the back so that this cream color would show through here and go down and complete this block going around those blue in the middle. See right here? This is the offending piece. But apparently I slipped it with the yarn in front. So that's why it's so important to slip with your yarn on the correct side. Keep it to the back so that it doesn't disrupt your work here. Now, it's not terribly noticeable, but I definitely noticed it when I was showing it to you. So I should have squares like this outlining in one color, and then the inside should be the opposite color all the way across. Here we've got the blue with the cream in the middle. Here we've got the cream with the blue in the middle. And right here we have this cream with this offending blue piece and the blue in the middle. So what I've done is I've taken some of my cream color yarn and I've just put it on a tapestry needle. Let's see if I can show you this properly. It's not going to be perfect, but what I want to do is I want to disguise that mistake. So I'm going to bring my yarn with the cream color up just below that strand of blue, which is where it doesn't belong. Leave a bit of a tail in the back so I can weave that in. And now I'm going to go up above, so this is a little challenging. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to look up above. I want this cream color yarn to come over the top of that blue to mask the fact that I made a mistake there with that blue, and it should be in the back. So I'm going to come up to this pearl bump of the cream right above it, and I'm going to pull my yarn through there. See, I came in below the blue, and now I'm going up above the blue, and now I'm going to go back in where I came up in the first place. And let's take a look and see how it looks. Just kind of making this up as I go along here. All right. So now you can see what I have is what looks maybe like an elongated slip stitch in the cream. Here's the stitch that I just made right here. I came up down below the blue, went up and caught it, one of the pearl bumps up above it, and then went back where I came in before. So let me just pull that on the back and see how I feel about that. There. So if I tighten up my tails in the back, you can see now that that cream is more continuous around that square. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it definitely doesn't have the blue going through it that you could see earlier. So there's just a quick way you can fix a little problem if you have it. If you notice it soon enough, you can fix it, of course, on the next row or something by just moving that yarn to the back or the front where it belongs. But in this case, I didn't notice it until later when I was filming this video. So I've now just fixed it. Here's my mistake right there. But now you really can't see it as well, can you? So just to show you how to fix a mistake. And on the back, here's my, let me get these other ends out of the way. Here's my yarn I used that I just threaded up through, and I came back down. You know, because that's going in and out of the same stitch there, I'm going to have to, of course, weave these ends in. Right now I'm just going to tie a little knot just to keep the tension. Because this is a blanket, or going to be a blanket, the knot is not going to bother me as it would on a garment, perhaps. So I'm just going to tie a little knot there. And then what I'll do is I'll weave these ends in. Right now they're going to be kind of in my way, and I'm not going to weave them in right now. So I'm just going to cut them a little bit shorter, just so they're not quite so in my way. And then I'll come back when I'm all done, and I'll weave those ends in, and you'll never know. It's the way we like it, right?